They put music from the 50s and 60s in medicine commercials to appeal to the older generation. Meaning sometime in the future, Despacito will be playing on a commercial for laxatives. Did I get your attention? As part of Gagne's 9 levels for instruction, you should open your classes with an attention grabber. It doesn't need to be related to your lesson, but it can. For example, a math teacher working on a geometric triangles may open their lesson with a bunch of images of triangles. A history or social studies teacher might open with a headline from the news within the last 24 hours. Florida Man is always up to something weird. Students can follow along with his daily adventures. For example, Florida Man dies after winning roach eating contest. Florida Man beats ATM, says it gives too much cash. Florida Man caught trying to steal ice cream truck. Florida Man arrested for throwing alligator through drive-through window. I'm going to show you a TikTok of attention grabbers you might want to use in your classroom. I used some of them in mine, and they work.
This is the attention grabber I usually use in class.
Do I have your attention? Do I have your attention?
Today I decided to try out some new ones.
Shark bait. Feeling good. Ah, so you disgust me. I'm trying to earn money for college. Sweet Caroline. Dum dum. Dum dum. Dum dum. Dum dum. Mama! What is love? Bye, buddy. And you're probably with that blonde girl. What's her name?
Go ahead and pause the video here and respond to the first question in the discussion below. What kind of attention grabbers do you use in your classroom? What ones do you think you might use in the future? It is important students know what they are doing for the day, week, quarter, semester, trimester, year, so on and so forth. Education is all about informing the student of the objectives and the requirements they need to meet to pass your course. In your classroom, you should have your objectives posted clearly where students can see them, whether that is online or in the classroom. Make sure your students know what they should achieve by the end of the class period. I post my objectives on my board, on my Canvas, and on worksheets in the instructions. The goal is to make sure the students always know what they are doing. Do I have the best objectives for my own class? Probably not. I could make them better. If you have advice on how you write your objectives, let me know in the discussion below. Once we establish the objectives for the class, it's important to connect the information we talk about back to the information we learned previously. In the discussion, answer the question, what methods of recall do you use in your classroom? These 3 things are the key to starting a good class environment each day. Now you've started the class, we met the marker of gauging what students remember. At this point, we can present stimulus to the class. We can review concepts they struggled with during the recall stage, or if they're ready, move on to new and exciting topics. In 2010, a university ran a study on how to better teach large classes of incoming nurses due to a nurse shortage in the professional field. They used Gagne's 9 levels of instruction and reported their findings. As part of the present stimulus step, they delivered new content every 10 to 15 minutes, which may be a big change in some of our classrooms. They used stories, images, videos, mnemonic devices, and examples to teach their complex topics. They broke it down into much smaller pieces so it would be easier for students to interact with. What kind of activities do you do in your class which are around 10 to 15 minutes, which teach the concept and allow the student to interact with it before you move on to something new? Tell me in the discussion below. As a reminder, you don't have to do all 9 steps in a single class period, nor are you expected to. It is important to work your way through all 9 steps during content delivery, and that will look differently from day to day. There may be one day entirely related to stimulus activities, and the next day is where you get into the recall or move into the next step, provide learner guidance. Providing learning guidance is where we help students learn how to learn. During this stage, we can remove scaffolding and steps. It's important for us to also show students examples of what we should do and examples of what we shouldn't do. This is where we can get into case studies and real-world applications. We can give the students opportunities to role-play the information they learned, map concepts, look at flashcards or mnemonics, or visualize what we teach them. What are some ways you remove scaffolding and offer mnemonic devices for your students in your classroom? Discuss below. From the University of Florida, they recommend including rubrics on important projects for students as they may need guidance for how to meet expectations. This is part of the scaffolding. As we start to move away from the guidance portion of our lessons, it's important to engage students and have them apply what they learned in class. If they don't use the knowledge, they are less likely to remember it. The University of Florida recommends applying their skills in individual projects and activities, written assignments, lab practicals, and so on. We should break our high-stakes assessments into smaller, consumable chunks. This allows our students to receive feedback on their work before turning it in for a larger grade at the end of a unit. Join in on the discussion below about how you frame your projects into smaller pieces. I've shared my own experiences in the discussion. Feedback is some of the most important interactions you can have with students. As an English teacher, I try to let my students know writing is a collaborative process. It is okay to work with me and talk out what you're struggling with on your project. For one of my projects, I schedule class time to be able to sit down with the students. They are in charge of initiating by signing up for a specific time slot. During this time, I write down the things they say and ask them questions about their project. Once they can talk it out and visualize it on paper or on the desk where I write with Expo marker, they feel more confident in what they are doing. While in university, I worked as a writing tutor and gained a valuable experience about how to help writers improve their writing. I love the writing aspect much more than I enjoy the reading aspect of English. Clear written communication is important for everyday life. During the nursing class study, they used peer feedback in groups and an audience response system. The University of Florida recommends online plagiarism checker, written feedback for students, feedback inside discussion boards, and peer evaluations alongside self-evaluation or self-assessment. Not all feedback is considered equal. You should use different types of feedback to evoke different reactions and assist the student in different areas. Confirmatory feedback lets the student know they did the required task but does not provide any feedback on improvement. Evaluative feedback appraises accuracy on student performance or response, but there is no guidance on how to move forward. Remedial feedback directs the student to find the correct answer without giving the student the answer. Descriptive or analytical feedback provides suggestions, directives, and information for the student to improve their performance. Peer evaluation or self-evaluation identifies learning gaps and shortcomings. As we look to assess our students' performance, we can use some of the feedback measures to assist us. We are also able to provide them with tests or quizzes, written responses, projects, and more. Before we assess student performance, we should give students opportunities to practice course content and provide that necessary feedback which guides them through the correct paths. Northern Illinois University recommends pre- and post-assessments on the same content to measure growth. They also mention how students should have rubrics available for any assessment so they can better understand where they lack and need to improve. An interesting suggestion from the same university is to replace traditional assessments with other opportunities to demonstrate their proficiency. What are some assessment methods you think would be applicable to your class content which you could use in place of a traditional exam? Tell me in the discussion below. As we attempt to keep students retaining the information we are providing and transfer it to their content, it's important to note some dangers. Don't isolate course content. The activities and things we learn in class should be foundational blocks we refer to consistently as we move to higher level concepts. Tests should include recall. Design tests to include questions which refer to previous concepts to track what is sticking and what needs more help. Convert information between formats. Take visual content into an oral version. Create a concept map, etc. And number 4 is to review test material. The nursing study mentioned how they broke students into smaller groups and had students discuss test questions and provide rationales for answers. Some downfalls of this system are that we cannot possibly use all 9 steps in a single day of learning. They need to be evenly spaced out based on course content, but we can use some of them daily. In the nursing study, to see how much scores would improve by using Gagne's methods, they only saw a 4% growth from 66 to 70. This means it is effective, but not as much as we may want to see in our classroom, especially if we have classrooms where assessment scores are 20% or lower. I used a gear graphic to show the connection between the 9 levels of instruction. Once one of the gears starts moving, the rest will start to move as well. We can consider using Gagne's levels similarly. All 9 must be moving together for the system to work. All these things lead into Gagne's 5 events of learning. Through the content we present to our students, we should offer opportunities to students to interact with these 5 events: intellectual skill, cognitive strategy, verbal information, motor skill, and attitude. The content we cover in class can hit multiple of these at a time. If a student is able to understand how to do something, we are hitting the intellectual skill. Cognitive strategy is how a student solves the problem. These can range from managing their behavior to solving an equation in front of them. Verbal information is when a student is able to state their understanding. Motor skills should be familiar to us. They must understand the function of the skill and be able to apply it to the next time they encounter a similar problem. Attitude may be the one we struggle with the most in the classroom. We are tasked with amplifying their positive and negative reactions to stimuli in the classroom with the hope we foster a positive attitude toward learning. We also have to understand performance is affected by an attitude, which is the choice of a course of personal action. At a certain point as educators, we cannot change a student's personal action, we can only encourage. It is at these moments I encourage you to step away from the student and focus on someone else or on a different issue entirely. What are some of the ways you use these 5 events in your day-to-day instruction? What do you see working well in your classroom, and where do you think you can improve? To end things out, here is a TikTok about what you might do in a worst-case scenario.
Repeat after me. Okay. If it's not perfect, on the first try, it's a learning opportunity, and I get to try again. It's trash, I'm trash, and I am never trying that again. No! Where did you get that? Probably somewhere in my childhood, I don't know. Okay, listen, try again. Okay, if I try my best but don't succeed, it's okay to try again. I'm a fraud who doesn't deserve the very air that I breathe. No,